Greetings, beautiful souls. Hope you guys are well. I just wanted to make a quick update about a download that I've been receiving just now. And it has to do with a lot of the infighting that's taking place in the light worker communities these days, and social media in general, not just light worker communities. And what my guides are wanting to share today is that this absolutely has to stop. There's too much blame, too much finger pointing, and too much shrugging of personal responsibility and playing at the level of ego. And I'll give you an example. As we all know that there's a lot of truth being exposed about Hollywood pedophilia, about corruptions at the highest levels of government, and about the fake mainstream media. Pretty much all of the fake media sources are misrepresenting the truth and have been for the longest time. And it's only now that all of these things are coming to our awareness, because this is the year that contains the energy of clear vision of all that was hidden under the surface coming to the forefront, and having us having to look at a lot of inconvenient truths. For those who are new to this, for those who are newly awakening or are just learning about the Hollywood pedophilia cults and whatnot, and corruption that's been taking place so far in all of the world governments, it seems pretty ridiculous. Like, some of these things are so hard to swallow that unless you're a seasoned researcher, unless you have been doing this work for a couple of years and you've gone down digging a few rabbit holes and you've seen things for yourself, it's going to be very hard to bring someone else up to speed right away. It takes it's a gradual process where you do your own research, you come to your own conclusions, and then you begin to reframe your whole concept of reality. So a lot of people are being red-pilled right now, and what happens when we get red-pilled is that our whole reality shatters pretty much. And I've been through that myself, and it's not an easy process, and I totally empathize with people who are going through that, because a lot of us truth sharers who awoke in the first wave of the ascension since 2012, we've had about 8 years to get our training and come up to speed. We've been working with the galactic forces, our angelic teams, and our ascended masters, our own personal guides, and our higher selves. We've had the chance to work on our spiritual gifts and open up our telepathic abilities. And at this point, it's like I trust my inner vision and my third eye more than I trust any outside source. So if you show me a piece of information, I can more than likely tell you right away that this resonates as truth, or it does not. And for those who are just awakening, it can be quite shocking to learn some of these disturbing things that are taking place. And the main point is that we need to stop the finger pointing, and we need to stop the blame game. So what happens, I'll give you a good example. For example, let's say I post something like Hillary Clinton is involved in satanic pedophilia. And that triggers someone, because let's say you're a fan of Hillary Clinton and you start calling me names on social media, and you're like, I demand proof, and how dare you, she's such a good person. And most of us already know, we've seen so much evidence that we know that not to be true, but there are still people out there who are completely brainwashed by media. So what happens is that when you're on the receiving end of such information that is shocking you, your ego already tries to grasp outside for something to hold on to, because on a subconscious level, you know what is the truth and what is not. You're more intelligent than you are aware of. Your subconscious mind knows everything there is to know. And when your subconscious mind registers something that disturbs your whole concept of reality, what your conscious mind does is, instead of absorbing that and saying, okay, let me sit with this, let me think it over, let me do my research, it just lashes out at the source of information and starts calling them names, right? And anytime you point a finger outwards, there's going to be three fingers pointing back at you. Because the ones who are sharing the truth don't have any agenda. At least I don't. There may be other people with their own agendas. But most of the people I know who are sharing the truth are simply doing it as a service to humanity. We don't get paid by our audience. We don't have any other vested interests. We're not here to favor one political party over another. And we're just sharing the truth because this is what we feel is the most important thing that the planet needs right now. The planet needs to be aware of the deceptions that we have been subjected to for hundreds of years, for thousands of years. Even our whole history is about to be rewritten. If you think that that we're exposing the truth, we haven't even begun yet. You don't even know how humanity arrived on this planet, and that's going to open a can of worms that many are not ready to accept at this time, because all of our religions, all of the indoctrination, everything we've been told about humanity is pretty much false, and it's been doctored and engineered to keep us brainwashed and to keep us limited. And now all of that's turning on its head because the intensity of the light is getting so much on this planet that people are beginning to awaken. And what happens when we first start to awaken is depends on your aptitude. But in some cases, people start going into denial, anger, blame, self-pity, victimization. And they go through what is known as cognitive dissonance. For example, I had a lady just today when I posted a video about child pedophilia and Hollywood links to it. She literally like dismissed it as if like no effing way this can be true, and she started justifying why this cannot be true to fit her theory of reality. And I empathize with those kind of people. But the thing is, we need to realize that we have been in this cage for so long. We have been in this invisible artificial matrix prison for so long that we have become the mouthpieces for the very forces of darkness that try to control us. They have brainwashed us. They have brainwashed you. You have been lied to. You've been manipulated. And I know this is not pleasant. I know this is something we all have to get accustomed to. But every single thing about our lives, about our identities, about our abilities, about who we are, about how we came here, all of these are lies and deceptions. All religions, all mainstream religions are full of lies and deceptions. The original sources came from God. I believe Jesus came from God, Muhammad came from God, so did all the gurus and the ascended masters who spread the pearls of wisdom. But what I'm saying is all of their teachings were taken by corrupt forces of dark and turned upside down so that we can never learn the true secrets of how powerful we are. And the forces of darkness, they cower in fear of the mass awakening which is taking place right now. So they're on their last straw, and however, they're not going to exit the planet so gracefully. They're decided to put up a fight because that's what the darkness does. They operate from the ego, and the ego is like that little child that just doesn't want to let go. It doesn't want to share their toys, and their philosophy is that if we have to leave, then we're going to destroy everything before we leave. So there's no winning. There's no, they want it all basically. So the biggest lesson that's coming up for all of us in humanity right now is that we need to start taking personal responsibility and start going inwards rather than projecting all of our problems outwards. So when you're unable to assimilate a piece of information that shocks you or shakes your belief system, then that means there's some work for you to do. If you are triggered, that means that there's some work for you to do. So instead of playing on the level of ego and starting to push back when something seems too horrendous to be true, why not take responsibility? So your higher self wants you to know that you yourself are responsible for everything that you create. There's nobody else who's going to come and save you. There's nobody else who's going to do the work for you. Whatever needs to be resolved as a problem in your life has to be resolved within you. When you're placing responsibility on outside forces, when you're shifting blame, when you're saying, nope, this is unacceptable, you need to show me the proof, or you need to do this, this, and this, and you start making demands of others, then you're playing on the level of your ego. But your higher self always takes responsibility. Your higher self will never place blame outside for anything in your life. Not your husband, not your wife, not your children, not your abusive parents, if unfortunately you went through abuse. So your higher self wants you to stop being a victim and start taking responsibility, because there is only so much outside blame that we can place. We need to start taking responsibility. So instead of saying, why don't you prove yourself? Why don't we take this back and say, let me sit with this and do my own research, and either I can come to the same conclusion as what this person is saying, or I can arrive at a different conclusion based on evidence I see, and then maybe we can all put our heads together and say, okay, maybe this version of reality is closer to the truth than what we previously thought. This is not a game of me versus you, us versus them, or it's all about the microcosm which is within, and expanding that out into the macrocosm. So what that really means is that all of the work needs to be done here. And when we come to a place of truth within us, when we realize the God within us, when we are in touch with our innermost being, with our soul, with our monad, when we're living our truth, when we're living through personal responsibility, then everything outside shifts, and then you begin to resonate and vibrate with people like who are on the same frequency as you, and they're also taking responsibility for themselves. So we're not on a mission or a personal crusade to prove ourselves to be true and prove others to be wrong. Wrong versus right is all about ego. Personal responsibility is all about the higher self. So this is the message that's coming clear as day, that we all need to take the onus on ourselves and stop shifting blame outside. We stop pointing the finger out and say, I'll take this, I'll sit with this, and I'll move this research forward, and let's see what conclusion we come to. And one more thing that's taking place in our collective right now is the need for people to be politically correct all the time, especially on social media. So our society has brainwashed us to always go with the norms, always never question authority, never question what our government tells us, or we are so brainwashed by Hollywood and our TV sitcoms, because what happens in TV, if you watch closely, is that all of these shows that seem like harmless fun, they're actually indoctrinating you with cultural norms that this is normal behavior and this is not, right? And this has been happening for so long. If you start looking at your mainstream media, if you start looking at entertainment from the lens of brainwashing, you'll see a completely different picture. You're constantly have been brainwashed all of your life, to the extent that most of your personality subroutines have become embedded in you in the deepest parts of your soul consciousness. This is what it means by matrix programming. All of these codes that have been embedded in us that are not of our own authentic self. They come from outside, and they're all socially indoctrinated paradigms that have been injected into our consciousness through brainwashing of education system, of social media, And what that does to us is it gives us this playbook that the ones who want to control us, they download this playbook into our consciousness of right, this is acceptable behavior, and wrong, that this is not acceptable. So when, let us say, the Black Lives Matter movement recently rose to the surface after the unfortunate death of George Floyd, and what that created was so much guilt was created in the media towards white people, and they were literally encouraged to take the knee and behave as if they apologized. They need to apologize to the black people, which is fine. There is racism and there are bigger issues at play. But what I'm really referring to is if you start looking at the social engineering aspect of how all of this is placed into our consciousness, the guilt and the separation, how's that engineered into our consciousness? What if media suddenly starts taking an enlightened approach and start teaching you, you know what, there is no black and white. We're all souls. We're all children of God. What if there is no separation? What would your world look like then? Why should you take the knee to someone else? Have you ever mistreated a person of color? If so, then yeah, you should be sorry to that person on an individual level. But what is all of this collective shaming about? So this is what we've been programmed to do. We've been programmed to behave in such deceptive ways that we don't even realize what's hitting us. Our whole behavior as a race has been engineered, and everything is scripted. It's precisely scripted, and all of these movements of race riots and protests, they're all scripted. They're all engineered for higher purposes. And what most people don't realize is that people miss the point that we are not just, this is not about politics, this is not about race, this is about a bigger agenda of a negative extraterrestrial race that has been operating all of our leaders as puppets from behind the scene. So right now, it's prime time for humanity to start becoming more knowledgeable and educate ourselves on all that we coin conspiracy theories, and really begin to look at things that seem uncomfortable or unbelievable and start paying attention to what's really happening behind the scenes. Start paying attention to the organizations that are engineering our social movements, like Black Lives Matter. Start looking at who started this movement, and then you'll realize that it's not everything as it seems. Black Lives Matters was not even started by black people. It was started by George Soros, who's a filthy rich billionaire. And every dollar that you donate to Black Lives Matters goes towards funding the Democratic Party for Joe Biden's campaign. So you really need to know that you've been lied to, you've been manipulated, and really do your own research. Otherwise, you're going to be an unwitting pawn in a very complex chess game, and you won't even know that you're playing a part in a political chess game. And when you start digging and when you start doing your own research, you'll realize how deep this rabbit hole goes, because it's not just the Rockefellers, it's not just George Soros, it's not just the Rothschilds. There are many levels above these people. Even they're the puppet masters. The real agenda that's being played out on planet Earth for the control and domination of humanity is being played out by very advanced extraterrestrial races, which include the tall grays and the reptilians, who've been here for thousands of years. And they have fought galactic battles in Orion and many other star systems. They have dominated and enslaved many planets and many races. And they've been doing this for millions of years. These are very advanced beings beyond our comprehension. And these beings have an agenda through which they control the whole planet for their resources. And they are dark beings which are motivated by greed, power, and lust. They're very dark, satanic beings. And literally, right now, there's a war being waged between the dark and the evil, because these dark alien races are fighting a war against creation. They're literally fighting a war against God. And you would argue, well, God is omnipotent. Why doesn't he just like point a finger and finish all of this, right? That's because we're in a universe of free will, and we are allowed to create everything that we are creating without intervention from the higher forces. So it's all up to us. There's no savior who's going to just descend from heaven and come and save us, because at the end of the day, the main reason for the entire creation of this universe is evolution. And we're all here to evolve through free will. So if a savior comes in and does all the work for us or tells us what to do, we're literally going to repeat all of our past mistakes, because we're not going to learn anything. We're not going to learn self-responsibility. And this is what it's all about. It's about learning self-responsibility. That's what we're being taught right now. So if you're part of the truth movement and you are trying to bring awareness to all that was hidden under the surface, you're going to be targeted by the dark. And it's nothing scary. It's more like what they recruit a lot of people unwittingly in online communities, and they try to bring you down with insults. They try to bring you down with slander, with guilt. And a lot of these people who are attacking you are like agents of the Matrix. It's like if you've seen the movie The Matrix and you see the agents, which are these very powerful beings that can take over any body. That's exactly what's happening in our reality. So the movie The Matrix was very close to a documentary about reality. And it was teaching us how the Matrix really works. It was part of the dark's disclosure. So what happens is when you start speaking the truth, you start attracting attention from people who want to learn the truth, who are usually of the positive orientation, and you start also attracting a lot of attention from people who want to stop the truth from spreading. And they usually are meaningless victims of dark entity control, and they're controlled in very advanced ways through extraterrestrial implants that cannot even be seen. They're not physical implants, they're etheric implants that can be stored in your chakras, in your light body, in your auras. And they literally, the dark forces can attach to those who are vibrating in the lower fields of consciousness. And by lower fields of consciousness, I literally mean those who are still wallowing in self-pity, negativity, and judgment and hatred. These are the people who are ripe for the picking for the dark, to become agents of the dark and start attacking light workers. And that happens all the time. And if you're a victim of such attacks of slander and name calling, then know that under no circumstances are we to respond. We do not fight fire with fire. So you're fully within your rights to immediately block anyone who is abusing you in any way, who is name calling you, or even is disrespecting you. You are not to take disrespect from anyone. That's the basic foundation of everything. You are not here to take disrespect from anyone. And the moment that starts occurring, you need to distance yourself from that person. They're agents of the dark. They are being controlled by higher demonic forces, and they can see psychically into your field. These demonic forces have the ability to see psychically into your field, and they know exactly where your weakness is, and they know where to poke you. Have you ever wondered why some people who you have never met online are so good at poking you exactly where it hurts? It's because there are demonic entities that are working through them, and these demonic entities are psychically aware of your whole configuration, and they know your strengths and they know your weaknesses. So what I'm suggesting is that stick to your path. You are fully within your rights to share the truth, and never take any slack from anyone who is trying to bring you down or oppose you for sharing your truth. Your truth is your truth. My truth is my truth. If something resonates with you as the truth, You have to keep an open mind and share it, but keeping an open mind that something else might come in the future that trumps that truth, and then you raise your understanding to that level, right? That's what knowledge is all about. Knowledge is never ending. But the ones who are closed-minded, who are agents of the dark, they're like this. They're shut off. They don't want to hear anything that challenges their belief system. And when someone or something does challenge their belief system, they're going to come with their artillery and throw everything at you. So immediately disconnect. Under no circumstances, and this is important, this is something my guides taught Eldora and myself very early on, which is why we were able to continue to do what we're doing. And that is, never respond to negativity. Never. So when someone is being a bully, when someone is being abusive, simply delete, simply ban from page, simply remove them. They're not going to learn from you. They're not going to come around in most cases. So why waste your time, effort, and energy and drain resources trying to prove that you're right? There's nothing to prove. Simply release them from your field. And I'm not talking about the people who are being authentic in and asking you with humility whether how you came to such a conclusion. I'm not saying there should be no dialogue. That's far from what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, when it comes to disrespect and when it comes to personal boundaries, we need to have very strong boundaries, because we are divine beings and we deserve to be spoken with love and only with love. So my personal mantra is that if anyone is not vibrating love in my field, they're not allowed in my life. It's simple as that. Simple as that. I don't care who you are. I don't care how long you've known me. If you're not vibrating with love, I'm not talking about ups and downs that happen. We work through issues. But if I'm seeing an underlying pattern that is consistently not based on love, and it's based on anything less than that, you're not welcome in my life. And just recently, I've cleansed my Facebook friends list of close to 2,000 people, and it feels so good because there were so many people. We used to do events from our company Soul Movement, and there were so many people that I didn't know that were added into my Facebook list, friends list, and I didn't know them, and they were just like a lot of mixed energies, and I was getting the guidance that I need to release these energies so that when I make my Facebook friends list lighter, I'm actually opening space in my aura, as within, so without, right? So it actually works. It felt like a release, like a cathartic release when I was reducing my friends list to only people I know and I love and I respect and I have so much respect and adoration for. So it actually felt like now my aura is so much lighter that I can make room for more loving people to enter my life. If I'm constantly surrounding myself with people who are negative, people who are just like all these mixed negative energies, then I'm blocking my soul family from coming in, because there's only so much space that can be occupied. You can't have negativity next to positivity. You have to sort everything out and cleanse your life of all that's not in alignment with your highest good. So there's nothing wrong with cleansing people who are not your well-wisher. In fact, that's encouraged. On the other side of the same teaching, because every teaching has two sides, that's what spirituality is. That's what duality means. Duality means not just looking at one side of the equation, but looking at the other side of the equation. So on the other side of the same equation is that when somebody is authentically coming to you with love and humility and challenging your statement or position with mutual respect, and they're creating a positive dialogue towards, with an open mind, with mutual self-respect, then by all means take that on if you feel that there's going to be personal growth for either one or both of you. Because when we approach each other through love and respect, then soul growth occurs. Then we learn from each other. But when we start with a foundation of hatred and negativity and anger, that's when we're at odds with each other. There's no soul growth taking place, and that's just showing you what needs to be cleansed out of your life. So by any means, make this affirmation or make this personal rule for yourself that you are not to respond to negativity with negativity. You're not to respond to ego with ego. Always bring yourself back to love. Always bring yourself back to your higher self, and simply remove and cleanse people who are not coming to you with love. So I'll just end this message with the reminder that just as there are dark extraterrestrial and negative forces, there are also benevolent positive forces who are here to assist us. And fortunately for us, this is the cycle of time where we're going from the Kali Yuga. This is the end of the dark times. And this is the beginning of a period of unprecedented peace and enlightenment. And the factions of light, the Galactic Federation, has millions of ships already surrounding the planet, and they've already ousted the dark. They've cleaned up most of the etheric planes. They've cleaned up most of the astral planes. And all that's remaining to be done is the cleanup of the surface population, the dark that still remains in control. And it's just a matter of time. So in a manner of speaking, you can say the light has won, and the age of Aquarius is already being ushered in. And the other side of the coin is that we're seeing the tail end of the tyranny and slavery that has existed here for thousands of years, and we're still learning lessons from duality, because this is the last of duality that we're going to see on planet Earth. We're going to ascend into a planet where we're all in unity consciousness. All the beings that remain on planet Earth are going to be of a very high consciousness. We're all being upgraded constantly with these gamma waves that are hitting planet Earth, and they're getting more and more intense, and that's what's causing all of this chaos and darkness to come to surface. So in a way, it's a good thing, all the changes that are taking place. It can sound like all hell's breaking loose when you look at it from a lower consciousness perspective, but these are very positive changes that are taking place on planet Earth. So just know that we're not alone. Our angels are with us, our ascended masters are with us, our galactic families of light are with us. They're actually looking at us from their spaceships, from their view screens. They have computers monitoring us all the time, and we're all safe and protected. No matter where you are in the world, you should know that you are safe, your country is safe, and it may not seem that way, but from what I know, from all of the years of research and my own downloads and my own visitations with these higher beings, I know that we have entered the timeline of ascension, and right now what we're seeing is simply part of the cleanup of the old. And you cannot even begin to imagine. Just today I got the download that you cannot even begin to imagine what's coming, in a good way. That the kind of technological advancements, the kind of age reversal technology that's coming, the kind of abundance that's coming to this planet, and everything's about to change, guys. And we're in for a very exciting ride. Mark my words. So thank you for tuning in. I love you guys from the bottom of my heart. If you have not already subscribed to the channel, please do so, and please share this message with your friends. Thank you. I love you.